Have you ever thought about what happens when the roles of the worshiper and the one being worshipped get completely reversed? Well, today we're diving into a 500-year-old promise that does exactly that, and it might just redefine how you see the relationship between us and the divine.
So, let's start with a question that kind of turns everything on its head. In pretty much every story, every tradition we know, it's us, the mortals, who pray to and mourn for the gods, right? But what if? What if a god mourned for a man? Just what kind of incredible love would it take to make that happen? Believe it or not, the answer isn't in some ancient myth. It's in a real town in India called Agradvipa, and there, a promise that was made 5 centuries ago is still being kept year after year. It's created this unbelievably unique bond between a deity and his devotee. And this whole story, it doesn't kick off with some big, joyous festival. Nope. It begins with a really solemn act of remembrance, a ritual that basically flips the script on everything we think we know about worship. Okay, get this. Every single year, the deity of Lord Gopinath is dressed in simple, white mourning clothes. And then he performs the sacred funeral rites, not for another god, but for a mortal man who passed away 500 years ago. The deity himself acts as the man's son.
So the big question is, who was this man? I mean, what could he possibly have done to earn a love so powerful that a god would literally agree to become his son? To figure that out, we gotta jump in a time machine and go back 5 centuries.
His name was Sri Govinda Ghosh. He was a really close companion of the famous 16th century saint Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and Govinda Ghosh was known for one thing more than anything else: his voice. People said it was so beautiful, so full of pure devotion, that when he sang, the great saint himself would just lose control and start dancing in total ecstasy. And we're not just talking about some guy who could carry a tune. No, he was a leader. During the huge Rath Yatra festival, he was actually chosen to lead one of the main singing groups. I mean, that was a massive honor, a huge spiritual responsibility in this growing movement. Now, to really get what happens next, you have to understand this one super important idea: bhakti. This isn't about just following rules or blind faith. Bhakti is all about an active, personal, and totally overwhelming love for the divine. It's a real relationship, a two-way street. But Govinda Ghosh's life, which was so full of this ecstatic devotion, was about to take a heartbreaking turn. And it was this tragedy that would lead to one of the most unbelievable promises ever made. So, following his teacher's advice, Govinda Ghosh made his home in Agradvipa. And it was there, while he was digging near the sacred Ganges River, that he found something incredible: a beautiful deity carved from black stone. He named him Sri Gopinath, and from that day on, he dedicated his entire life to serving him with love. For a while, his life seemed just perfect, He had his devotion to Sri Gopinath, he had a wife, he had a son, everything was complete. But then, tragedy struck. In a horribly cruel twist of fate, both his wife and his only son died, leaving him totally alone in his old age. Now, you have to understand, for Govinda Ghosh, this was a crisis that went way beyond just grief. In Vedic tradition, there's a really important ceremony called Shraddha. A son has to perform these last rites to make sure his parents' souls have a peaceful journey. So, with no son to do this for him, he was consumed with worry about his own spiritual future. So, there he was, elderly, heartbroken, and deeply, deeply worried. Govinda Ghosh did the only thing he could think of. He turned to the one constant in his life, his beloved deity, Sri Gopinath. And he didn't just pray into the void. He spoke directly to the stone deity he had served every single day of his life. Can you just imagine that moment? It was this desperate, raw plea from a loving devotee, a father who had no one left to care for his soul. And that night, the story goes, the impossible happened. Lord Gopinath actually appeared to Govinda Ghosh in a dream and made this incredible, world-changing promise that you see right here on the screen. This kind of act is seen as the ultimate example of a divine quality called Bhakta Vatsala. It basically means the Lord isn't some far-off, untouchable force. It means he is so moved, so bound by the love of his devotees that he'll personally step in to take care of them, even becoming a son for a lonely old man. And here's the most amazing part. This divine promise wasn't just a comfort for a dying man. No way. It became a living, breathing legacy, a sacred tradition that is still going strong today.
For more than 500 years. I mean, let that sink in. 5 centuries. Every single year on the anniversary of Govinda Ghosh's passing, Lord Gopinath keeps his promise. So how is this ancient promise kept? Well, the deity is dressed in the white cloth of a grieving son. Sacred funeral offerings, called pinda, are given to him on behalf of his father. And every year, thousands of people gather just to witness this beautiful, almost impossible exchange of love. So, what you should take away from this is that the story of Govinda Ghosh really gets to the core of what bhakti is all about. It shows that a relationship with the divine doesn't have to be some distant, formal thing. Through pure, selfless love, that relationship can completely transform. The divine can become a friend, a guide, or, like in this incredible story, even a son. This 500-year-old tradition really challenges our whole idea of faith and devotion. It leaves us with this simple but incredibly profound question. If divinity itself can be moved to become a son, then what really are the limits of love?